What is up? What's poppin'? You know it ain't no stopping. It is your boy, the International Sensei. Please keep it right, keep it tight, and above all, please, please, please talk to me nice. And we are back at it again. Welcome, my friends, for another UFC Fight Night recap. It is Woodley versus Burns, a damn good card, of course. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Shouts out to the winner, Gilbert Burns, taking out Tyron Woodley in the main event of the evening. But it was a great, great card. I do want to touch on something though before I go down the list, the rundown, and talk about my favorite fights. One or two of the predictions that I got wrong, predictions I got right, and keep it pushing. But I want to talk about that boy Brandon Royval. I think that's how you say it. I'm sorry, man, if that's not how you say it. My biggest apologies. But he got on the mic, man, and he looked like he was about to be in tears for the simple fact that he just felt like he didn't have a great performance. He was really looking for that knockout of the night bonus, probably that fight of the night bonus, things like that. So for those of you guys who aren't familiar with MMA, who aren't familiar with just fighting in general, one of the things that a lot of big promotions have, I mean, certain ones are pay out a little bit different, especially like boxing promotions. You have a little bit more control in boxing promotions, especially when it comes to branding and all that kind of stuff. But when you have like promotions like UFC, like Glory, and things like that, where they control most of the branding deals and things like that, you have to abide by a certain amount of things, and you get paid a set amount for your contract, which happens in most cases, regardless of what combat sport you're in. But he stayed on the mic and he was like, "Man, like I'm gonna have to go to work tomorrow. Like I really wanted that bonus. I'm gonna have to go to work tomorrow." And you could like see the pain in his face. And props to Daniel Cormier just for staying in pocket. I mean, he could tell that the guy was like really sad, but he stayed in pocket. He did not break stride. Kept asking him questions about the fight. Kept it on the fight, and kept it very, very professional. Daniel Cormier, I mean, one of the legends of the game. I can't wait to just watch him call fights after he is done fighting. I know he still has that rematch for the heavyweight championship with Stipe Miocic. So I hope he wins that, and then after that, right off into the sunset. And I would love to continue to hear his voice on the mic. But that's just to anyone that's getting into fighting. It's the hurt business, but it is also not the rich hurt business. I mean, you're not gonna come into the UFC and get Floyd Mayweather money. I mean, John Jones is one of the best to ever do it, and yes, a lot of it has to do with some of his own stupidity of why he's not getting paid like the crazy bucks. But I mean, no UFC fighter is getting like Floyd Mayweather money. Even like Conor, it took him fighting Floyd Mayweather to get Floyd Mayweather money. You know what I mean? Or even Wilder money, Fury money, and stuff like that. And it sucks, man. It really does suck because you could really tell on his face like how disappointed he was in himself and things like that. But he had a damn good showing. Won by submission against a really, really strong fighter in Tim Elliott. Was able to kind of work around the guy's crafty wrestling and things like that. It was dope, man. It was a great fight. Great night of fights. I was not disappointed as far as what I watched. A couple of like a result or two did disappoint me, but as far as what I watched, man, I was entertained from the beginning of the night to the end. Matter of fact, funny enough, I'm on a like pescatarian diet, so I've been eating nothing but like fish and stuff like that. So I was shucking clams like mid fight, and it was the Caitlyn versus Shevchenko fight, and I was like, oh crap, I gotta get back. So I had to like give up on what I was doing and run back to go see that fight because I wasn't keeping track of just keeping track of the time. But anyway, that's a story for another day. But going down the list, we have Morales versus Gutierrez. Chris Gutierrez takes it TKO by leg kicks. Bro, those leg kicks were so serious. Those leg kicks were ridiculous. I mean, just chopping his legs, chopping him like a tree. And one of the things that happens with like a lot of guys, and this happens, I mean, in all styles of combat sports. Like wrestlers, they favor one side. Karate guys and point sparring, a lot of them favor one side. Boxers, obviously, you favor your orthodox, you favor southpaw. And what happens in kickboxing and MMA and sports, you can go to the legs a lot, or even just a sport where, or even just like in a combat situation where they know that you're a dominant side and they're able to attack your weaknesses on that side. A lot of people aren't good at being ambidextrous, aren't, or as the style bender would say, bistantial, and they can't switch stance and still be able to have that same level of competence, still have that same level of defense, still use their feigns the same, be able to understand that they have to move different and things like that, set up things different, especially when you're getting your legs kicked. And it really showed. I mean, you could tell like in certain instances he was thinking a lot when he was on his other side, and he was so worried about those leg kicks at a certain point where he was just pinned against the cage, praying that he didn't get kicked in the leg again, and then eventually got knocked out by leg kicks, got TKO'd by leg kicks. I will say though, the referee, I mean, you could tell the like, and maybe that's just me just being a sappy dude, but you could tell that he was out of it a while ago. I mean, he wasn't able to really walk that well at certain points. I mean, you can get in there and kind of stop it, but it was still a good stoppage overall. I mean, it wasn't like a Teixeira versus Anthony Smith where he's getting his teeth punched in, whatever. I mean, his legs are banged up very badly. He's gonna need to take probably a couple weeks, maybe to a month off to rest his legs, build them back up. But he didn't shave off a large amount of his career. Next fight we have Lewis versus Kenny. Got a submission in the first round. A solid fight. Next fight was again the branded Roval versus Tim Elliott. I mean, I thought it was a very good fight. I mean, he clearly didn't get a chance to really show his wild striking, but did an amazing job dealing with Tim Elliott's like wild wrestling style and how super aggressive Tim Elliott was. So that was a dope fight. Jamal Hill, man, I think he called out John Jones like after like one of his like first UFC fights, or right as he was getting into the UFC. I would pump the brakes on him just a little bit. I think like get a couple more wins under your belt and then challenge John Jones, because I feel like Jones is at a point where he wants to take out the young lions before they reach their apex, kind of. I mean, Floyd did a similar thing with like Canelo and things like that. So it's the mark of a champion. I mean, you got to be strategic. You got to think about number one at the end of the day. You got to think about how to make great fights, but how to make that good money and how to keep yourself getting paid champion money. But damn good stuff. I mean, that freaking flying knee to the gut, sending them rolling to the floor, putting them in a body bag after that in the first round, man. Damn good showing. We got Gabe Green versus Daniel Rodriguez. That was just a solid fight overall. I mean, I don't know. I really wasn't, honestly, I didn't really watch this fight too much. I was kind of in and out on this fight, but solid, decent fight overall. Now the next one, which was like the main event of the preliminary card, was Shevchenko versus, oh my god, with these names, Chukagan? I don't even know, bro. I don't even know. Anyway, Shevchenko, not Valentina Shevchenko, her sister, Anatina Shevchenko, and got handled pretty well by the girl that just recently lost to Valentina. And I think it was Daniel Cormier and Michael Bisping both said it. They were like, "Hey, man, it's kind of sweet revenge. I mean, you lose to somebody and then you go and beat up their brother, beat up their sister. I mean, it's kind of like a hey, don't like, just because you got me, don't think I won't be back very soon. You know what I mean?" So it was a great fight, great preliminary card. Really loved it. I mean, I'm glad it's in the UFC Apex. I can't wait for Fight Island. I don't know when that will be, but I am all for it. Now on to the main card. We got Mackenzie Dern versus Hannah Schaefer. Mackenzie Dern taking it with the submission in. It was a knee bar. I think she was trying to posture up on her, get some strikes in her guard while she was standing, and she just very sneakily snuck in that knee bar, which was really good. Next, we got Roosevelt Roberts versus Brooke Weaver, winning by submission as well. Billy, good lord, how do you say these names? Whatever. Billy Q versus that boy Spike, and that fight was nuts, man. I mean, from bell to bell, non-stop. That dude Spike was a little like a energy bunny, but unfortunately his gas tank ran out a little bit. Got very tired in the third round, and and Billy was able to squeak out that victory in the end. Onto the heavyweights, we have Augusto Saki versus Bogov. Oh my God, Ivanov. There we go. Okay, I got that one. I got that one right. All right, so taking it was Augusto Saki. Very, very good fight. I mean, the big boys were doing their thing, but I feel like Augusto was just a much superior striker, getting him with a lot of strong kicks to the body, using his reach very well. And one of the things I hate, oh my God, I hate this. Like, I hate seeing someone that's tall as hell, like has like a crazy, crazy amount of reach, and they just don't use it. They just don't use it. So I'm glad he was using his reach very well. I was able to control the space extremely well, and was able to win that by decision. And actually, I'm looking at it, so it was 3 decisions after back-to-back submissions in the main card. So not too bad. But going on to the main event of the evening. Hold on. I gotta get my Bruce Buffer on. Hold up. Going on to the main event of the evening. Tyron Woodley versus Gilbert Burns, and Tyron looked, I mean, he was in trouble since like from the first round on. I mean, he got cracked in the first round, was on the ground getting ground and pounded really bad, had a huge cut opened up over his eye, and he really just wasn't the same. I mean, I honestly wonder how much that Usman loss took out of him. A lot of people don't understand that, like, whether it's like your first knockout, whether it's whatever. I mean, whether it's like you were that undefeated guy that lost the world championships, or there's fighters that are absolutely monsters all year, all 2, 3, 4, 5 years, winning the world championships, winning the nationals, and then they go to the Olympics and they flop. That happened like this is like for gymnastics, but guy named Brian Orozco, he was like the gymnastics hopeful for the U.S. one year. I mean, they had songs for him. They had all kinds of pageantry, all this kind of stuff, and then he ended up falling on a bunch of the events and things like that. So I don't know if exactly that is happening to Tyron Woodley, but he looked very I wouldn't say tentative, but he looked, I think, one step behind. He looked one step behind of Gilbert Burns at all times. But I mean, Gilbert is a young lion, man. He looked so hungry in that fight. But he looked hungry, but he didn't look greedy. Like he was going for all the stuff that he was going for. He was going off, throwing crazy combinations, good strikes, but he wasn't overzealous. He wasn't overcommitting. He knew that Tyron has like death in both hands, and he was not trying to get put to bed and have all the hard work that he had gone through to get to this point be diminished. I mean, with Tyron, I mean, you can't hate on the man. I mean, regardless of how bad he was losing, he still was in there fighting till the final sound of the bell. But man, it was a tough loss. And Gilbert Burns trains with Kamaru Usman, so the guy that dominated you extremely handily. I mean, he destroyed Tyron Woodley. If you've never seen that fight, just look up Usman versus Woodley. 25 minutes of an absolute mauling, and with a ref that really didn't understand grappling and didn't understand the fact that Usman was really working on the ground, which happens a lot. I mean, a lot of people don't understand grappling. A lot of people just want to see people get the shit kicked out of them, so they won't understand like a serious grappling situation where guys are on the ground working